Hello, folks. Welcome to season 3 of our On the Call series produced by the Stars Among Us. I'm Ozzy, and I thank you for tuning in to this thank you tour of mine, as each episode is a thank you card to someone who has impacted my life. On this 8th episode of season 3, I'm shining light on Shanny Herrera. Hello, Shanny.
Hey, Ozzy.
Hello. So, before we start, I want you folks, my audience, to know a little bit about Shanny. Shanny and I met when I was hired at Comet International, which is an outerwear company in the garment industry, years ago. And Shanny had started there as an admin and progressed to licensing, where she was actually, at the time that I was hired, she's pretty much, as I saw, running the company. And Comet International was notorious for lines such as Sir Benny Miles, Wu-Tang, Fat Farm, and the major line Rockaware, which ended up doing about $80 million in sales in less than 2 years. Shanny is also known for her grant writing, program development, PR, advocacy, mentoring, voter empowerment, civil and human rights, environmental protection, and much more. And then Shanny is also an executive director for NAN, which is National Action Network for the Bronx chapter. And she's been there since 2018. On top of that, Shanny is launching her Get Money Girl clothing line, which is due to hit the streets this year, as well as involved in Get Money Generation, which is involved in empowering youth through clothing. And last but not least, and I'm sure I'm leaving out a whole lot of stuff, Shanny is also involved in camping, a camping organization for children.
Well, I want to say first, thank you so much. When we had that initial conversation and you asked me to be on the show, I was really amazed that you said I impacted your life. Because I think you did more of that for me than what I did for you. Wow. When we met years ago, you were a powerhouse. You were a Black woman in a predominantly male industry. You were known as a woman that would open all the doors for the accounts. And I remember them speaking about you very highly prior to us actually meeting in person. And I was more excited when I saw that you were a Black woman. That made me feel amazing, I gotta tell you, because I dealt with a lot of male salespeople in the industry, and male driven, and the industry was very flirtatious, and to have a woman, and a nurturing woman at that, so loving, it was a blessing. You were a blessing to me. I saw you as bigger than life, to be honest. I thought you were just the end all. And just the fact that they revered you and, behind the scenes, not in your face, they spoke highly of you. That made me super proud. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Oh my, Shanny. Okay. You just kind of turned my head around there. I'm going back and I'm thinking, is that me she's talking about? Is somebody? Oh my God.
Well, you always, yes, it's you that I was talking about. And listen, your character hasn't changed much. Where you're so humble. You're a humble woman. And back then they were talking about you like, you were the it. You were it. And you were it at the end of the day. You were. You sold that merchandise and opened those doors like nobody's business. So I was super proud of you. I was super proud that God allowed us to cross our paths together, and that, you are who you are. And even with the work that you do now, I'm always so proud. I was telling you that when I see you on the buses or on a billboard somewhere, I'm always taking a picture. Because I remember, I said, she would have never told us that she did this type of work. And you never did mention it. And to see, I was like, wait a minute, that's Ozzy. I know that face. Wow. So I'm amazed about you. How about that? You are such a wonderful spirit. And, I don't use those words I don't use those words on everyone. I don't respect everyone in the same manner, but you are so deserving. You are, people who know you are blessed to have known you. How about that?
Oh, God. Shanny, before I fall apart here, let me just try to charge through that. So, Shanny, what was it like to work in this clothing industry, as we know it had been for you, especially as you were brokering that deal between Comet and Damon Dash and Jay-Z?
So I've had a lot of therapy. I have to be honest. I've had a lot of therapies throughout the years that made me feel comfortable with even speaking about the things that had transpired back then. As I think about the things that have transpired, honestly, if I would have handled things differently, I would be sitting in a different financial scenario. If that Me Too movement was happening now, I would lead that movement. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. So I've had a lot of opportunity to think about it. It was really tough. It was really tough. Industry predominantly run by males. And, dealing with the male antics and the conversation and the disrespect and, just trying to be a woman in an industry and be respected while doing the work was really all my goal. It was really a tough scenario. But when Damon actually came to visit the office, the guys at Comet, the leather business, the fashion businesses had changed a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And I was a fan of Jay-Z's music. I didn't know at the time what it would have become, but I knew that the opportunity for it to become was something. I remember when Damon came to visit to even ask about doing the clothing brand. And Norton, basically, you remember Norton. Norton was one of the owners, and he was considered one of the founders of Rockaware. Mm-hmm. But he said flat out no. He said a flat out no. Mm-hmm. And I interjected that meeting, and I was like, listen, you don't really know what you're doing. Maybe because I was such a fan of Jay at the time. Mm-hmm. I said, what I want you to do is don't go out there. I pulled them away from the meeting. Don't go back out there and say no. Tell them that we're going to at least consider it and give me an opportunity to put a marketing plan and, kind of explain to them more about this music and this culture before we give them an answer. And I remember going home and, gathering the music and listening to the music and putting something together. And I came back and I sold it to Norton and Alex, which are both the partners in the business. And they knew that I was so passionate about what I was saying that it was worth taking a look at. Mm-hmm. And that taking a look at and me spending time learning and understanding Damon and Jay at the time brought together the Rockaware program, where I had my hand in its success because I spent many nights. I worked countless hours. I was at the first one in the office, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would leave 11, 12 o'clock at night. I traveled around the country on their Def Jam tour. I was the first person who gave Jay actually a shirt to put on, when at that time we didn't have Jay's buy-in in the process. Mm-hmm. And Damon didn't feel he could get him to wear a shirt, but it was me who did it. I sacrificed a lot of my family's time. I left behind my sons, my husband, my everyone, because I knew that this was an opportunity that I can also make a lot of money from, that it would be successful if I applied myself to this scenario. And I did just that. It took me a long time to even, this is probably, frankly, the first discussion publicly that we're having about it. It took me a long time because, I have to acknowledge that, this month, May, is considered mental health awareness month. Mm-hmm. And with all the trauma that I experienced in developing developing the brand and what I dealt with when I got home because I left the family was really trying as a woman, as a mother, as a wife. It tried on me. And even the scenarios that I was put in tried me, caused me more trauma. So I had to, seek therapy. It took me a long time. It wasn't initially after, I left Rockaware that, I got it, but eventually in time, I got therapy and I'm feeling so much better for it. As women, what we do a lot of times, if we hold things within without, speaking about what's really bothering us. So I'm going to say that I held it in and it was detrimental to my health. I let go a lot of things. I started not caring about a lot of things. But God is good. God is good. It led me through the help that I needed to get to, and I started to function very well, after I left.
Getting into NAN, when did that whole process begin? That journey?
That journey, and then I'm going to say happened recently. I'm going to say maybe in 2016 or 2017. My memory doesn't serve me that great, but it happened because the people at NAN helped me with a situation with my son where they were trying to demasculate him and not allow him to graduate from high school in time on a technicality. And I fought hard, and it started me on my advocacy career, I'm going to say, because what it did was I had to fight for my son. The technicality that they were trying to hold over my son was written in paper. But, there's people who are in authority, and when they're in authority, no matter what's written in paper, if they say it out their mouth, they think that that's what you should follow. But I had to show them differently, and I needed the help because what NAN does is they advocate for people. A lot of times people just see them doing work for, this George Floyd scenario, unfortunately, that just happened, and the Breonna Taylors for death. But, there's other circumstances that, they're a great help for. And one of those helps were advocating for me, speaking to people who can actually hear our scenario and put it in perspective. Actually, we got it all the way up into Albany. The person who wrote about the technicality, and she called like literally 5 minutes before the graduation and said that my son has to graduate. And it was just amazing. It was almost like a movie. I had to tell my son about Rosa Parks and how she was, she had defied not getting up and moving her seat. And he didn't understand that. I just told him to trust me as his mother. So as we were driving to his graduation, that should have been really celebratory at that point, it was almost like we were driving to an unknown scenario, and his spirits wasn't high because he wasn't sure. And I was determined that whether or not they said he was going to graduate, that I was going to walk him across the stage or walk. I would have did something at that graduation in defiant to make sure that people knew what they were doing to my son. So I'm so happy that it turned out the way it should. And like I said, literally 5 minutes before the graduation began was he told that he could graduate. So that's what brought me to my advocacy work. Also, my mother was a civil rights activist growing up. So I think this was something already embedded in me. Because we used to go to, protests with my mom. And this was like in the 60s, 70s, early time when, that was happening. So it's already embedded in myself and my siblings. And I'm just feeling now I need to carry that torch. Right. So much that I even started, my siblings and I have started a foundation in my mom's name called Ruth's House. And Ruth's House is basically going to advocate for families. I want to target and focus on our young people because they're our future. But, we'll help everyone. We'll help men and families and couples and, whoever else we can help. But I want to do this because I believe that, there's some legacy that should be left there. My mother died over 30 some odd years ago, but I still feel her presence now. And I think the reason why I do is because I'm doing the work that she started, and everything that she's taught us, we're continuing. So I said, you know what? We need to do a foundation in her name so that we can do this work, not just for other organizations, but for, my mother's legacy. Right. This is what she started within us.
RUTH House, right?
Yes, Ruth's House Foundation.
And then talk to me about the camping.
I'm also involved with an organization called Girls Quest. And Girls Quest is an organization that takes underserved girls from underserved communities and takes them to 400 acres of the Catskill Mountains and teaches them about nature, and they learn about character building and literacy, and all in a matter of 2-week programming. They can swim. There's a lot of activities there. There's nature walkings, and there's basketball, and there's tennis, and there's the lake, and there's the boathouse. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience that I was able to experience myself as a child. So I loved it so much, and it built my character so much that I always felt that I owed something back to the camp. So I became part of the alumni board, and now I'm actually the registrar of this camp. This year, because of the COVID, we are opening up our camp doors, but this year we're only going to limit it to maybe about 50 campers between the ages of 8 to 14, and we're only going to do a 10-day program where we're going to take them to the Catskill Mountains, and hopefully they can bridge some relationships with new friends. They can learn more about themselves, and the most important thing I think that needs to happen is that there'll be no cell phone usage while there. We are going to allow the parents to communicate with their children, but how they're going to communicate is via email, and we'll read it to them, or, we'll print it out for them, but we don't want the kid to get involved in that cell phone. We're trying to break that cell phone technology thing.
What was it at its best? How many girls do you have up there normally?
About 250 girls each session, and they may have had about four sessions. We started right after school was out, which was in June, and then the last session went into about the 3rd week of August. What
else is Shanny involved in that I haven't been able to pick up on?
Although I do love advocacy work,
yes,
I felt that I had passion for fashion. So I decided to continue on my fashion experience.
The Get Money Generation part of it, where did that come from? What is it exactly?
It came from the influence of young men wanting to have some sort of say and input. They liked actually the initials of it all, which was GMG. And GMG is what I was using for the women, for Get Money Girl. And they were like, well, we do GMG too. Why can't you make something for us? So that's why I decided to add something, and it was the men's line of it. Well, it's really unisex now, because I've had merchandise that I sold to both men and women under the Get Money Generation under the umbrella. But let me tell you how I got there.
Go ahead.
After my career at Rockaware, I actually reinvented myself, and I was doing program directing for an organization called the Bell Foundation, and I used to run programs in elementary and middle schools for both boys and girls. But
first of all, what is the Bell Foundation? Explain that.
The Bell Foundation is a non-for-profit after-school literacy program.
Got it.
But they were under the DYCD umbrella, which provided other activities besides literacy. And it was my job to create programming around their models that would engage the students. So I did that for a period of time. And then after that, after I left Bell, because Bell decided to leave New York and just stay in Boston, I decided to do my own program. So I did a program called the Fashion Sense Program, where I went into the schools and I taught kids the business of fashion. I gave them the history of the urban fashion industry and my involvement in it. And then it was hands-on work where they learned about branding and how that worked and how clothing lines were created. They also learned how to sew. And at the end, they put their own little collections together, and we did a fashion show. And they got a little bit in the 9 months of programming that we had. But Get Money Girl, I used it as development for them and showing them how to create, some brands. So while the kids were creating their own concept, I was showing them through my own brand that I had created. And the initial styles that I launched for Get Money Girl came from that actual class environment.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was amazing.
So it's like that was like almost the precursor to what doing now, what you're producing now.
That's correct.
So what are your feelings
about the world?
About let's bring it down to the US. Okay. About what's happening here politically.
I think there's a shift. Change is upon us. I'm not sure what exactly is happening. I have my own opinions that I don't think I'm ready to share.
Right.
Everyone may not be in agreement, even with the vaccine and all that. I'm not sure if, people will be receiving of it. Mm-hmm. But I think that this is tribulation times. Mm-hmm. If I have to take it a little bit biblically, and that God has given us scenarios to reach out to Him and know that He's God and He's the higher power. Mm-hmm. So politically, spiritually, I feel that's what's happening to us now in this world. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking advantage of it. I'm taking advantage of reading more, studying more, meditating more, because that this body is just, I'm passing through it. Mm-hmm. That the spirit is something I need to preserve. And politically, I'm not liking what I'm seeing, but it's not like I haven't been taught about these times that would happen.
Mm-hmm. What's happened this past year with COVID? How has it affected you, if any, at all? Well,
I actually had COVID.
No way.
Yeah, I had COVID, and it's not funny, but I got COVID at a photo shoot that I was having for my clothing brand. There was a big major account that wanted to see it in a different category, which I was, presenting to them, and I got COVID. I was the only one at the photo shoot who had double mask on, gloves on. And the person who was a carrier of it was asymptomatic. She wasn't sick at all. 4 of us got sick, but I was the most extreme. And I think that's because of my age and the underlying conditions that I actually have. Uh-huh. So I ended up getting hospitalized for 8 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was really tough. It was a really tough scenario, but God is good, and I made it through.
Yeah. Oh, Shanny, I'm sorry to hear that.
Listen, it happens. Listen, what I'm not sorry about is that I'm here.
Right.
And although things at that time did look a little bit bleak,
right.
I made it through by the grace of God, through my praying families. And that's what pushed me to do this fashion brand, because I didn't want to leave any stones unturned. I wanted to complete this project. I launched Get Money Girl originally in 2005. 2005 to 2007, I successfully sold in stores. And I sold a lot of goods. I'm going to say on a wholesale level, over $1 million of goods that was placed in stores. So I did a good thing there. And I had left it because, there was some disagreements, and I decided to pick up the ball when it was the opportunity to, and here I am, working hard. The difference now is that I've made it a team effort. Mm-hmm. I have 3 more exceptional women that are working on this project with me on a day-to-day basis to bring it to fruition, so that you can start seeing this merchandise in stores come fall.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I look forward to that, and I'm looking forward to being able to purchase something in one of your stores for soon.
So much, yes, definitely, real soon. I mean, I'm burning the midnight oil here.
I'm sure.
I'm telling you.
You know what? It's funny because, you get calls every so often with, hey, Oz, I've got this project, we're doing this. I'm not really there again. You know what I mean? It's like, I've done it. I've done even when I was working with Buster, just, you're in there early, you're out 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you barely get some sleep, and I've done my time. I can't see myself there. But the difference is that you're doing your own,
and I'm going to tell you, it's so much harder on your own.
Yes, I know.
And I don't want to be in a position where I'm selling my soul, quote unquote, to the devil, or just getting a check. Because as people of creativity, as Black people, we are the creators of a lot of these creativity things.
Correct.
And we end up selling ourselves short because we get a check. Correct. I don't really want to do it that way this time. I want to be able to leave a legacy. And I have some good work that God knows I have in store that needs some funding. So I do not want to just, hand over my project to a company and be the one who ends up with a check. Mm-hmm. And I'm just doing it a little bit differently. And if it takes it, to work or happen a little bit slower, but by all means, I'd rather do it that way than to just, end up working for somebody for a project that I developed.
I agree. And I toast you for picking up the mantle again and moving forward with it now. My folks out there listening, thank you very much for spending your valuable time with us today. Please care to share, and remember, when you're on your beach, stay on the sunny side of the street safely. Stay masked up, please. Shanny, the time has moved on, but I thank you so very much.
I appreciate you for all that you do.
Taking my breath away. Thank you so much, and we'll be talking soon, and I'll be looking forward to being able to tell people when you have dropped your goods, where to get the goods. Love you very much. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Thank you so much, and have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.